It's showtime. And there we are, hot. Welcome to the Adobe Premiere Pro Editors on Facebook event with LucidLink and Karl, Soule, Andrew, Kess from APPE. Let's go to the people.
Let's run the video, shall we?
Yes. Andrew, all yours.
Right then, here we go.
We started working remotely like many other teams in 2020. There are a lot of good things about working remotely, but working remotely is also challenging and hard.
Before we went remote, we all worked off of the same server, which made everything, really easy. We could just path things back and forth.
There was a moment where we were all working remotely and we were trying to use other tools.
We just kind of went with the first thing that was accessible to us and just finding so many problems.
A silly thing that can happen if you're having to sync files back and forth is your laptop can fill up. And when your laptop's full, you can't do any work.
Larger files would just break projects.
And so we naturally were like, what else is out there? The freelancer that told us about LucidLink was very reluctant to use draw. We weren't about to change our workflow for just one person, but in this case, it was worth it.
I tell my friends about LucidLink all the time. A lot of my friends are editors. What makes LucidLink different is that it just works, and it works for everybody.
Nobody likes adding more tools to the workflow, but I don't think that LucidLink is another tool. It's just the backbone of any workflow.
And
hello
everyone. Hello everyone. So welcome to this live stream with our sponsors, LucidLink. We reached out to them because we've been using their tools for a while and we think it's a really elegant solution, and we just agreed that they would sponsor the live streaming, which is really, really cool of them. And so without any further ado, I think what we ought to do is just have a quick whiz around the room, as it were, and get everyone introduced. Shall we start off with the lovely people? I'll start off with me. I'm Andrew. I'm an APPE admin, and I've got a company called MMO UK. Kyle.
Hi. Hey, Andrew, I think your mic might be a little bit crunchy. Anyway, Kyle, APPE. Really great to have all the admin team here. And thank you so much, LucidLink, for sponsoring us, because we're able to do this now. And what's blown me away about LucidLink is just that there's a little virtual hard drive with a huge amount of assets, and it's not taking up space on my hard drive. And so we wanted to bring you guys some this knowledge, so that the APPE members can really see how it works and all that, and get to know the people behind LucidLink. And I'll throw it to Kess.
Hi everyone, I'm Kess. I'm an APPE mod as well as a Adobe Video mod. Grateful to have LucidLink here to explain how their products work, as well as their price, value, and how they can be instrumental on an enterprise level as well as a small teams level as well.
So if we go to Gagana.
Hi, I'm Gergana. I'm on the marketing team at LucidLink, and I'm very excited to have LucidLink participate in this awesome community of very knowledgeable and cool people. And yeah, thank you for inviting us to be a part of it.
And Adam next, I think.
Thank you. My name's Adam Beeson. I'm a solutions engineer here with LucidLink. Thank you to the APPE team for having us. What we do is we help understand customer workflows and help solve challenges that users face using the unique set of features that LucidLink has. So it's really great to be here and to get to talk about the solution with you today. Clayton?
Thank you. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Clayton Dutton. My background is as a video editor for many years, and then running broadcast and post-production for Discovery Channel for a lot of years. After that, I went off to Frame.io, and then we became part of the Adobe family. And LucidLink is really just the solution I've been looking for my whole career. So really honored to be here with you today. And thank you to the APPE team. Thank you. Karl.
And Karl.
Sorry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karl Soule. I work for Adobe. I've been with Adobe for going on 20 years, and I've just seen the evolution of Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm based down in Los Angeles, and I typically focus on film and television workflows. And back in 2020, we were just about to release a huge collaboration feature, something called Premiere Productions. And this was all designed to work within a secure facility with, some sort of shared storage volume that was within a facility. And suddenly nobody was going into the office anymore. And everybody was asking us, this is a great way to collaborate, but how do we do it remotely? So we went through and looked at a bunch of different solutions out there, trying to see what would allow for productions to work in a remote environment. And one of my colleagues, Dave Helmley, actually found this company called LucidLink, and we started doing testing with it. And the way it handles this like magical streaming, where it looks like a local driver, it looks like a local network share, fits perfectly with the way productions work. And it's become just a go-to standard for working on anything that requires collaboration, particularly over distances.
That's all of us. That's all of us. So we're here to discuss all of this remote working, how this all works with each other. There are all sorts of questions to do with what is LucidLink, how does it work, what benefits does it bring for small businesses, medium size, all the way through. We know, everyone's got an impression that it's all to do with enterprise. Not the case. It works in so many different use cases. And also, what's the difference between it and Frame.io? Is it one or the other, or do they work together? The clue is they work together. They work together.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I find that is just amazing is being able to work with teams remotely around the world and everybody and having the files sync. And I would love to hear about that. But I suspect that the best, editors are all visual, as much as we can talk about it. We all want to see how does it work. And more than that, we probably want to, use our own fingers on the keys, right? So Karl, do you want to show us that, or Adam, who would like to show us like the interface as just to get us our feet wet?
Before we do that, how about why don't we hear from maybe Gagana or one of the others to tell us exactly what LucidLink is, because you're the guys here doing this. So Gagana, perhaps would you like to give us some background on this?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, LucidLink is a storage collaboration platform. To unpack what this means, it is a tool or a part of your infrastructure as a video team that allows you to collaborate on files of any size without having to download them, synchronize between different systems. So it just appears as a drive on your desktop, and whatever media you put inside or project files, they automatically are available to everyone else on your team who has access. So it's a folder. It looks like a folder. It acts like a folder on your desktop, but it helps you work remotely from really anywhere with internet connection on any sort of files. It's a file system that is in the cloud.
So we were going to go to Karl just to make a quick observation. The other thing that's really important about this is that LucidLink, it does its file sharing using something called zero knowledge. It means that LucidLink, nor anyone else, no government aid, no one knows what you've got stored. They can see the bits, but they don't have any information and have no access to the files themselves. So it is secure as any. I mean, it's stupid secure.
I learned that the hard way this morning.
Did you?
Because I'm like, I have two systems and I hadn't put it in my second system, and I'm like, oh my God, where's the key? And I didn't have the key for the and I really had to dig for it. I'm like, did I write it down? And so who would like to address the zero knowledge? It sounds kind of crazy, but it's actually so smart.
Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah, please do, Adam.
Yeah.
So fundamental to our system is the fact that we break content up into blocks when you put it into the file space. So when you copy data in, it is broken up into little pieces, and each of those pieces is encrypted on the client side individually, right? And then we put it in the cloud into cloud object storage. All of the metadata, all of the data for all of your files is encrypted client side with encryption keys that only you possess. Nobody else has access to it. The cloud provider doesn't have it. We don't have it. We can't even reset your password, right? If you lose it, to Kyle's earlier point. So it is fundamentally extremely secure. Even if somebody could get into the bucket that backs the cloud object storage, they're not going to be able to make any sense of any of the pieces that are in there, because again, they've been blown up into all these little atomized pieces that your client will be able to stream and put together and rehydrate for you so you can use them. It's completely transparent to you. But were anyone to get access to that, they wouldn't be able to see that content. They wouldn't be able to exfiltrate it and make use of it, because again, they don't have access to those keys. We don't have access to the keys, and the cloud provider also does not have access to those keys.
And that's kind of important for anyone working on contracts that are commercially sensitive, government-based, any number of things. That's a really important thing. I mean, Gagana, you were saying about how LucidLink is really about, you just see a folder appear on your desktop or in your browser, and you treat it like a normal thing. Karl, do you have something? Can you show us that? Because you've got something up and running.
Yeah. Yeah, I can actually quickly share my screen if you guys want.
Yes, please.
That'd be brilliant.
Please go for it.
All right. Yeah. What I have here, let me just get this going. There we go. That should be sharing at this point. So what I'm showing you here is just my desktop, and excuse my messy desktop. I'm one of those people that's a million folders on my desktop that I need to have access at my fingertips. But what I've got going on here is I'm running the Lucid client. This is something that shows up in the toolbar at the top. And you can see this is what the client looks like. I sign into various file spaces. So as I take on jobs, if I'm a contractor and I'm working with a client that has a LucidLink file space, they just need to set me up with an account with a username and password. I can sign into that. Once I've signed into it, this shows up on the Finder level as a drive. So you can see here, this is the Adobe DVA digital video audio drive. I can double click on this and I can immediately see the file space. I can come down here and see that we've got a big file space with Lucid on this one. This is 1.13 petabytes worth of information, but this is shared across a company of 10 to 15,000 people. These are each of the individual.
I got to ask you one quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have a petabyte of storage on your laptop there? I'm just joking.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's petabyte.
That's the beauty of this, right? I'm actually, just in my apartment in near North Hollywood, and obviously I don't have a server in the other room. I have worked with editors before that had to have a server like in a spare bedroom someplace with air conditioning and fans that sounded like a 747 jet taking off, to enable like that work from home experience. This is so simple and easy to set up. You just basically sign in. You have this drive available to you. What's cool about it is Lucid kind of does some magic behind the scenes to sort of manage what is going on. If I come over to the desktop application, there is a local cache where Lucid is kind of temporarily sort of reconstituting these files as it's streaming them down from the cloud. But the beauty is, these are designed in such a way that they sort of fill in. The operating system thinks the entire file is local, and the bits and pieces sort of fill into the container on an as-needed basis. So if I need to go in and play, some piece of source material here, and I just want to play this on my desktop, I can go in and actually find, any of these pieces of media. And I'm here just struggling trying to find, let's see, I think my media is going to be in here. Here's a clip that's on Lucid. I can double click on that. You can see that I've got this full screen. I can hit play on this. This is actually going to play back on my system, and I'm able to, review this clip, scrub around in this clip. It is streaming down to my machine and using that local cache. So I never need to have the full copy of the file on my machine. But for performance purposes, I can set that cache as small or as big as I need so that I can get the type of performance based on my bandwidth. But, typically, I've just got standard home internet here. I'm, no endorsement for Spectrum here, but just so you know, I mean, that's who I use for my home internet. And I'm able to get a really great experience being able to work with this. Even though this file is 1.46 gigs, it doesn't have to take up that full space on my system. It can actually stream down from the cloud.
And I can add to that really quickly if you'd like me to.
Yeah,
it's like Mary Poppins back. So I'll share my screen here. And
While you're doing that, I'll just answer Kyle's question about the 1 petabyte. 1 petabyte is, we have to have some number that we say how much storage you have on this drive, so the operating system can report back. This is why we have a petabyte as a number there. The truth is that there is no limit. And your file space, your LucidLink file space grows with you. You can have a few gigs, you can have multiple petabytes, and then go back to a few terabytes, and it will be flexible like that. So that's the other beauty of it.
So one quick question.
Sorry, go ahead, Kes. Why don't you do Jeremy's question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one quick question for what Karl was showing, what Gergana was talking about. So when I'm setting up the space, would I also need like a dedicated SSD to possibly cache the little bits and pieces that you guys atomize, so that way performance is good? Because obviously the internet's playing a factor into this, but I'm also wondering, do I need like a high speed like SSD or RAID or NAS to cache anything in the background, so that way when I go on and off, back and forth, I could be guaranteed optimal performance?
Yeah, I can take that one. So the default is to use your boot drive. Most computers nowadays ship with an SSD built in. So you're able to leverage that. You don't have to buy a specific separate SSD just for use with LucidLink. So we want this to be easy for you, turnkey. You can use the equipment you already have. By default, we take up 25 gigs. You're free to adjust that up to 10 terabytes, depending on how much content you need to have to hand at a time. But it's a small amount of space that you're setting aside. We don't exceed that number. Once we fill it up, we will automatically start to drop out the least frequently used data to make room for new data. So you set aside a very modest amount of space. Again, 25 gigs is the default. It can be on your boot drive. And in return, as Gergana said, you can see here on my desktop, I have the info for my file space available here. And I can see its capacity 1.13 petabytes, available 1.13, use 0 bytes. Well, you can see there's data in the drive. And that would have been true also for Karl's example. You're always going to have data in there, but the capacity is infinite. Like I said, it's kind of like Mary Poppins bag. You can just keep pulling stuff out of it as much as you want to. So if I go over here, I have another system that I'm going to assign permissions to the user I'm logged in as over here with. And I'm going to give out access to absolutely everything. So right now, I only have access to 2 folders. That's a frequent use case. You only want to provide access to what you want users to see. So if they're only working on one project, they only have the permissions to access that data for that project. But if I want to be broad, I can be as broad as I want to. I can give them access to all, let's say, 18 terabytes of data that I'm using. I click the plus button, 1, 2, 3, everything shows up. And then immediately I can go in without delay and I can open up a project straight off the file space. And everything's linked because we have that common point of reference. So everybody that has access to the file space has access to the media, they have access to the project. And when they open something up, it's all linked and ready to go. So you can onboard somebody in the same 5-minute span that you granted them access and get them to work that much faster.
That's incredible. Yes, I definitely remember seeing that panel at Adobe Max, and I know there's probably more details that we'll probably get to on the show, and so that's great to know. So real easy peasy.
I had a quick thing. Rupert showed a picture of someone in an airplane who was editing, and I don't know how reactive it was, but it blew me away that the bandwidth. That you could basically it throttles the data stream for you well, and that I don't know how well they cut on the airplane, but apparently it was possible. We had a question from Jeremy about if you don't have internet access, what happens? So it's a tough question. Who would like to field that one?
I vote Clayton. He hasn't said anything yet.
That's all right. You guys are doing a great job. I'm enjoying it myself. Well, okay, so that shot on the airplane, absolutely fine to work, full data, full resolution from just a hotspot connection. You just have to do a little planning, right? We aren't magic. We can't materialize data beyond your bandwidth or that data that aren't there. So we have features like pinning. And I think it'll be a good segue for Adam to go a little bit more deeper into the panel, or simply playing back your data once, right? We only go back to the internet, to the cloud essentially, to grab the data if we absolutely have to. We always prefer to play it locally out of your cache. If you don't have an internet connection, it's very difficult to use LucidLink. We need to have at least a hotspot because everybody's metadata and all of the information has to be synced back to the one source of truth, which is LucidLink in the cloud.
Yeah, Karl, would you like to? I mean, we can sort of tag team showing the panel off if you'd like to. I kind of glossed over. Gergana and I. This is sort of our brainchild that we put together. We're very proud of, but it's something we introduced to ease the process of pinning for users. We've tried to look around corners to anticipate the problems people will have, and one, as Karl and Clayton mentioned, is that people will be in unusual places on a plane. Or if they'll be, working with really large media. So, Karl, would you like to speak to that a little bit?
You're on mute.
Oh,
we all do it.
Can't believe I did that. Okay, so the nature of Lucid, if bandwidth is not an issue, if you're editing in a facility, you've got a fairly strong internet connection. You can just, let LucidLink will manage that cache. And as was said, if more space is needed than what you have allocated for your media cache, the older data will cycle out, the new data will cycle in. You never get any message saying, your cache is full, you need to manage this. It's all managed on the back end for you. But when you really, really have, marginal connectivity, such as on an airplane, such as on a hotspot with your phone, pinning is a feature that allows you to selectively choose what is in that cache, and you can choose to pin things. Premiere Pro has some great integration. There's LucidLink has created a panel. Premiere has this concept of partner panels, and these are things that are available in the Adobe Marketplace. So this is something that I can actually pull up using my Creative Cloud application. If you go over on the left-hand side and you go to Stock and Marketplace, and then you search for plugins, this is where you can find the LucidLink plugin or partner panel. And what this is, once you click install on this, in Premiere Pro, if I go to the window menu and go to extensions, and you can see I've got a number of different partner panels installed here, this is where the LucidLink panel actually shows up. What this allows me to do is, while I'm directly inside of Premiere Pro, I can go in and pick and choose what I want to pin. Now, you can do this from the Finder menu. Lucid actually installs things that are in a right-click menu on the Finder so that you can go in and pin specific files. But as an editor, I like to think in the method of sequences. If I'm still kind of assembling an edit or something like that, I might want to pin a particular folder or bin. So the panel provides that for me right here. I can choose to pin all the clips if I want. If, again, I'm trying to minimize space on my laptop, and I've already created proxies that are living on Lucid as well, I can choose, instead of pinning the original high-res footage, I can choose to just pin the proxies so that the proxies are going to stay in that local cache. The great thing about this is, a lot of times once we're editing, we don't need to worry about absolutely everything in a given folder or bin. We can actually do this by sequences. So if I click on sequences here, this will go through and load in what is currently pinned, or it loads in exactly how much space is being used by each of the different sequences I'm editing. And again, I can choose to pin just the proxies or the high res on an as needed basis directly from the panel. So it
Hey, Karl,
the way
quick question from Kyle here. Quick question.
Yeah.
When you have multiple editors, in different geographic places around the world, so each one could have their own setting for pinning and all that.
Absolutely.
But you'd have to have a unique Adobe ID to log in. Is that correct?
Well, again, the nature of this panel, the panel installs into your local copy of Premiere. And that's managed based on your Adobe ID. You just need to go to the desktop application. The Creative Cloud desktop application is the way most people would go through and install this. If you're working in an enterprise environment, there might be some differences as far as how you gain access to this, but this installs like just about every other partner panel that's out there for Premiere. So Lucid makes it really, really simple for the vast majority of us that are on the individual Creative Cloud membership, where you just simply go to your Creative Cloud desktop, you go to Marketplace, you go to plugins, and you'll type in LucidLink and you'll find the panel right there. Once it's installed, it's on your system. You don't have to worry about it from there. And if there's any After Effects users out there as well, this is also available in After Effects, so that if you're working on compositions in After Effects, this is the great thing about LucidLink. Is, while it works fantastic with Premiere, at the end of the day, it's basically replacing this idea of having to have a network share. So any application that needs files is compatible with LucidLink. It works great in so many different use cases.
So I have a quick question, and this is probably coming from some of our viewers. So in terms of overall performance with like pinned badges and pinned items, like, is there a performance difference between long GOP codecs, ProRes codecs, or just like any of the proprietary codecs from certain camera manufacturers, or are we expecting performance to be almost somewhat equal depending on hardware and bandwidth and internet type of
situations? You want me to take that one, Karl?
Well, yeah. I mean, every codec is going to edit slightly differently. If you're dealing with codecs that store each frame as a separate compressed file, like ProRes, generally speaking, you get the most smooth scrubbability. If you are not pinning, your performance is going to be based on your internet performance. As you move the playhead around, Lucid is working magic behind the scenes to make sure that you're getting the latest and greatest frames. If you pin files, once a file is pinned, it's effectively local. Your performance is going to be based on the drive that you have your cache pinned onto. So if it's the boot drive in a typical laptop, you're going to have the same performance. But the difference in performance is less of a LucidLink issue and more of just how these codecs work. When you compress, long GOP means you're taking 15 frames or more and compressing them into one block that needs to be decoded before you can see any of the individual frames within that file.
And of course,
that was a question from Joost Vanderhoven. Hey,
Joost.
I guess you're in Paris. Joost. Yeah. I wonder, is long GOP less ideal compared to ProRes? I guess bandwidth of ProRes 4444.
For editorial purposes, working with an intra-frame codec like ProRes, the difference in performance mostly has to do with scrubbability, right? If you're on a fast drive and you grab the playhead and you just scrub really fast back and forth, because each frame of video is a standalone file or a standalone picture within the file, it's easier to scrub. When you're talking about a group of pictures, anything that's long GOP, Premiere has to load the entire group of pictures in memory to decode it and then start pulling out the individual pictures from that group. So, it doesn't matter. Not so much
we're doing
Lucid
effects. When Andrew and I have had, and Cass and I have dealt with that question in Premiere without considering LucidLink's infrastructure with it. But yeah, long GOP, you go to try and stabilize a file and it's caching 30 frames and the pixel tracking is the calculations are incredibly exponential. But I guess Joost's question is, what is the ideal codec to work with LucidLink, because it's streaming? And so Adam, it looks like
I'll take that one. So for our part, we give you the data back as you put it in. So that's the thing that I want to emphasize. So we are not doing anything in terms of mutating or compressing or transcoding the data. What you put in is what you get back out. And so for our part, we don't really differentiate between different file types or different applications. We're general purpose storage, and we serve the data back to you as you provide it to us. And so your applications accessing that data will be accessing it based, as Karl said, on the speed of your internet connection. Now, in terms of what is more advantageous, as Karl said, there's a trade-off in terms of performance on the hardware and the end user application side. So intra-frame codecs have all the information in each frame available. There's not as much decoding. There's not as much tax on the hardware to decrypt that and assemble it back into something that makes sense to a human eye. Long GAP is more compressed and more efficient, but it takes more processing power to be able to use effectively, right? To be able to scrub and do all the things that you want to do, because the CPU has to reassemble that. So for our part, a long GAP may be better if you have limited bandwidth, right? There's a trade-off to consider, but we don't take either of those into. We're not biased in either direction. Andrew, sorry.
And to answer Just's question, and the question many people have, is when we're setting up a project in Prem Pro, you get the opportunity to use proxies, and you get the opportunity to have the playback as smaller res, lower res files in whatever codec you like. We tend to normally be editing and having the renders being done in ProRes. But if I'm traveling, then I would tend to have all those renders done as either proxies or small, really quite small MP4s, just because when it's a really small MP4, rather than doing a 4K MP4, I take it down to sort of half 1080, 720 or even less, 480 even, because then there's less of an overhead for the machine to deal with, and I can actually cut quite well at that kind of thing. But it's about how you set the project up, and if you know you're going to be traveling and you've pinned stuff and it's a small series of MP4, you're going to be able to carry everything you need.
If I may, oh, sorry, go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
No, I just want to add one quick thing on the back of that about pinning. I want to emphasize for everyone, it's not a separate copy of the file, as you may be accustomed to with other platforms. It's always the same source of truth. So when you pin something, when you use our panel, again, this is a tool set we provide you to solve very specific problems. If you have limited bandwidth, you're working with very large files, right? It's not something that we assume that you're going to have to do. We want you to be able to stream. We want you to be able to have that spontaneity of saying, I'm going to open the drive, I'm going to access something just like it's a local disk. But we provide this to you so that you can address those problems. And when you do, you get the best of both worlds. You get local performance, and you can still collaborate with everybody else, no matter where they are in the world. When you make a change, they see the change. When they make a change, you see the change. You don't have version differences. You don't have any problems with that. Thank you. Sorry, Clayton.
Yeah, Clayton, go. In which case, I mean, the truth is that having now used it a fair bit, Karl and Kez and I, the truth is, like Karl, we're on home. I'm on home bandwidth, and I'm not really, it just works. It just works. Occasionally it'll get a little slower. That's because of my bandwidth being chewed up by whoever or whatever. But generally speaking, it just works straight away. It appears on my desktop in Explorer, because I'm a Windows user, and I can just click in there and I've got it all, and I use the panel in Prem Pro. It just works. So just to move on from that a little quickly, because one of the things which we said right at the top was people are also asking, and they have been asking in the group, about the difference between Frame.io and LucidLink. And I like to think, rather than exploring a difference, it's how do they sit together? What are the benefits of using both of those together? Who'd like to address that?
Karl? I'm certainly happy to start. Maybe Karl and I could partner on it. But I had the honor of working for Frame.io. I was actually the founding solutions engineer there. So great company, great product. Me as an editor, former editor, LucidLink provided more value to me, right? Because although Frame.io is phenomenal for review and approval, if I want to use that as a sharing platform like G Drive or content sharing, I do have to download the data from Frame.io before I can start working on it. So for that reason, they are very much different products. I actually created a prototype as well, because I do love the camera to cloud functionality of Frame.io. And so I have developed a prototype that allows you to write that data automatically to LucidLink so that then your editors can begin that immediate access piece as well. Karl, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
Yeah, no, this is it's one of the confusing aspects that I sometimes get from customers that are using Frame. Frame has a huge amount of review and approval functionality. They have the ability to see video, and there's things that are built into Frame.io that are very specifically geared around images and video. Things where you need to be able to review shots, things that you need to be able to do it on different platforms, everything from a desktop browser to a phone to an Apple TV over in the living room where I can just sit on the couch and I can look at shots as they're coming in and they're being shot. But the one thing about Frame is it's just using cloud storage. And if I need to edit anything, Premiere wants it to appear as if it is local.
Right.
And that's where Lucid bridges the gap. It looks like local storage. So if I'm inside of a Frame project and I say, you know what, these are some clips that I want to edit. Premiere Pro actually has a panel that allows me to go in and look into Frame.io and look at files. And in fact, if you don't mind, I'll just share my screen real quick so I can show this. Let's see, there we go. We'll do that one. And that'll be sharing in just a second here. So again, I've got a different panel open now in Premiere. This one is built in because Frame.io is part of the Adobe family now. We call it Review with Frame.io. It's part of the rest of the panels, just like the Source Monitor and Program Monitor and Timeline panel and things like that. But if I need to access these clips, I can scrub them, I can play them off of Lucid and off of Frame, just to be able to kind of see and review these clips. But if I actually want to edit these and put them in a timeline, I need to actually go in and download the file. I can download and import it directly into my Premiere project by using this import file command. But when I do this, I still have to say, and Frame.io does some amazing things with video, talking about like having access to proxies. I could choose to just make this, a low-res proxy if I wanted to. But here's the thing that throws people. Frame is now asking me, where do I want to store this? And if I'm trying to do this collaboratively, basically, if somebody out in the field has recorded stuff and uploaded it to Frame, and I want to make sure that my team of editors all have access to that, what I would need to do at this point is put this someplace that everybody can access it. And that's where Lucid kicks in. With LucidLink, I can choose a volume and say, I want this file to live in this folder on my LucidLink file share. And by doing that, it's downloading a copy of the file, it's putting it in the LucidLink file share, and now I have access to it. I can double click on this, I can play this file back, and I can work with this file. And anybody else on my team on that LucidLink share now also has access to this file at the same time. So that's where there's kind of this need to have someplace local. If I actually want to go through and edit the footage, I need to have it on something that looks local. And that's where LucidLink fits perfectly in.
Karl? Clayton, what about the camera to cloud thing? Like instant access. I mean, that's the secret sauce of. I mean, I remember seeing at Adobe Max, which was an incredible event. If you ever get a chance to go to Adobe Max, it's the most inspiring artist thing to do. But what I saw was Red Bull, LucidLink, camera to cloud, and they're out in remote areas. And I believe that LucidLink was also a partner at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. It was a seamless integration, and everybody around the world was able to get, and the files would be loading up incrementally if they had an interruption of the internet, in remote areas. How does that work? What's with relating to LucidLink?
Yeah, I can certainly, if everyone wants, I can certainly take us through the prototype. And I just to kind of tell everyone here, in full disclosure, this is a prototype right now. So I have working. It's not as fully baked as Adam's panel, though I really do enjoy it. And I have a LucidLink file share here. But what I'm actually going to illustrate really quickly is basically what Karl just showed us, but in a different way. So Karl just showed us a manual sort of workflow. What I thought, coming from Frame.io, and I love their API, the developer site, everything is just so wonderful about that system. So I'm going to create one, and I'll just call this APPE event. We'll make it camera to cloud enabled. world. Again, if you haven't tried Frame.io's camera to cloud workflow, you are missing a trick. I am actually now going to go into Filmic Pro, and I am actually going to choose this new project, and it is called APPE event. There we go. And I'm actually going to shoot some stuff. Maybe I'm on set shooting for social or media. This could also be a Blackmagic RAW or Red RAW camera, but Frame.io is handling this piece. So Frame.io is going to generate these folders based off of the date and the camera. What I'm actually going to do is once this asset is done rendering into, excuse me, I need to leave Filmic open. By the way, good note. If you're a Filmic Pro user, you have to leave it open to get the asset. You can't close your phone. So once this is done preparing for playback, Frame.io's API is going to fire off a new asset webhook. I'm going to grab that webhook over here, and I took the project name as the first directory I wrote. Then the next one is uploader, right? Because Adam's going to call me and say, hey, Clayton just uploaded something from the production site for us, grab it. And then I can just go into LucidLink or into Premiere and just go right into this asset and grab it. And I can start using this inside of Premiere instantly. It doesn't matter. I can just start accessing the data, right? And I can just scrub along. I can do whatever I want with it, right? This is the data that I just shot from coming into Frame.io automatically and us writing the data automatically over into LucidLink.
That's so cool.
That is incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just really, we're taking advantage. One of the things I love, I mean, Frame is such an incredible product. And the way they have got the interface, that could be an Atomos device, it could be an iPhone, location scouting, casting, right? A lot of people don't want to use it for full camera right away. Fine. Let's grab all these downstream uses. But more importantly, let's stop reinventing the wheel and let's connect them in meaningful ways, right?
So here's a question for you. You know, we've seen quite a bit here, and I think it's extraordinary. I think what you guys, all of you do, you know, from Adobe to LucidLink, you know, Frame.io, the whole thing, I think it's extraordinary where we've got to in such a very few years. But there is a perception. There is a perception out there in the world of editors, and certainly among our group members, that all of this costs too much money to adopt because everyone's got used to the initial flush of online storage and, you know, remote access was really expensive, right? That's, you know, so the question I've got for you is, I think the impression is this is for enterprise only. These are for big studios and big filmmakers. Tell us about how this can be used for small, because we're using it and I'm happy to talk about that, but I'd love to know from you how for small, medium-sized production companies such as Karl and Cares Work, you know, how does it work in that situation? What's the kind of price? Is it affordable? How does it work? How do you manage that as a small business?
I can speak to that a little if you'd like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my bread and butter. That's the world that I come from. I came up through Unscripted in New York and working for production companies that had grown over the years. And so frequently when you were looking for a solution to be able to affect remote access to data, large scale collaboration over large distances, if you went out, you know, we all go to NAB every year and we see all the toys on the shelves and we think, I'd love that, but I've got to put it together. I've got to have a whole team of people to assemble whatever this is to get it running. LucidLink is really, geared towards this particularly underserved market, I think, in providing something that's turnkey. It takes 5 minutes to get in and get set up with a file space. There's so little to do in terms of management. I'll share my screen briefly here just to show.
No hardware to install, Adam, anything like that?
No hardware to install, no like edge filers or anything like that. It's a totally SaaS-based, cloud-based solution. So if you come over here, I've got an admin user. And this is all you see in terms of settings. You've got 7 tabs down the side, right? Of those, users, groups, permissions, that's really intuitive. You've got 13 settings in the settings tab. Of those, you're focusing on cache and cache location. The rest of it, you really don't have to worry about. So it takes an enormous amount of load off of your IT staff. It takes an enormous amount of load off of your editors in terms of having to figure out a new workflow, learning curve, that kind of thing. For individual contributors,
Oh, did we lose Adam?
We lost Adam.
He
Let me
may
just
have hit
finish
the
on.
leave studio button by mistake. I've
Yeah,
almost done that like 3 or 4
yeah,
times.
because it looks like stop sharing. And let me just finish that thought real quick, though, because one of the things I love about LucidLink, and I'm not cloud native at all. I have an enterprise background, but I had engineering and IT teams supporting me. But we've effectively operationalized. You don't need to know how to spin up a cloud object S3 bucket and AWS management console, or how to do IAM privileges and all of that. We've sort of, like I said, operationalized it with just a couple clicks. Within a couple minutes, you're up and running. But that's actually what you've done in the background. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, sorry. I clicked the leave studio button rather than the end share button, as it sometimes happens. But no, I was just going to say for independent filmmakers, individual contributors, imagine going out and buying drives all the time. You fill something up, you want to do a project, you run out of space on the drive. You got to go to B&H, you got to go to Best Buy and get one. Well, what if they're closed? You're stopped by that. LucidLink, as you saw earlier in the demonstration, you can just keep growing. So it has something to offer everybody, even if you're working on your own, even if you're not working with a large team or distributed team. There's something for everyone there.
One of my favorite things too. One last thing. One of my favorite things for the small people out there, the smaller shops, the individual users, is that after a terabyte, we also round up to the nearest gigabyte, not terabyte. It's one of the things I do very much love about our company, and I think we treat people very fairly. And might not matter to you, some of you younger folks out there, but as you get further along in your career, it starts to matter more and more.
I was just going to say, our APPE users span the gambit. We have feature film, like full budgets, unlimited dough to spend on this stuff. And then there's, independent documentary filmmakers. There's, a lot of wedding shooter editors too, which, they have an incredible amount of assets. And they don't know where to put them. And then anyway, the bottom line is you get a lot of people who work in social media too. And there's two types. There's one that have the hard drives, and then there's like, they managed to get a NAS, right? And then some of us, with the smaller studio, we've got, maybe 4 stations and some 10 gig connectivity. And, for me personally, evolving to the 10 gigs, NAS in a rack, and then deciding to not have, after COVID, to be remote access and to not run that server. The cost of the server, and operating it is pretty significant. And I would love to hear from the Lucid team here, Gergana maybe, I don't know. What, when you do the cost benefit analysis of something that gives you that remote access to teams around the world, and you're not paying for a server or a chief technical officer to keep all your assets going. Gergana, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. The return on investment we hear that customers have is, I won't even say the numbers because nobody will believe me, but it is incredible. So we here need to look at, of course, what people are able to invest in their project. Of course, every project has different budgets. The good thing is that when you start with LucidLink, you can just work on one project. You can just have a little bit of LucidLink. You don't have to move all of your terabytes of data all at once. You can start with one project. We even have a free trial. You can try it and see if it's the right fit for you. Sometimes it's not, it's not for everybody. Some people who are video editors and have are working with those large files don't have the same use case, and the same, won't find the same value. So it is very important to try and see for yourself if it's something beneficial. If it is beneficial, then that price tag automatically will seem like it's nothing compared to the value it's bringing, the time it's saving you for your team, and the time it's saving you in waiting for downloads and uploads and syncing is very quickly recouped, by using LucidLink. So I think this is where the important message is. Just try it for your own use case. We can't tell you whether this is the right solution for you. Only you would know that. We can help you, optimize it best.
I have 100 terabytes on Dropbox. And now, and I would love at some point if I could actually have any any of the shared storage options that I have to work with LucidLink. I know that's a tough question, but that's what APPE, what we're all about, right? Andrew, you had something?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a production company and we work in all sorts of productions all over the place. We do everything from LiDAR scanning through to full shoots with full crews and all that kind of stuff. We have all sorts of different things and tiny small ones. I was working with someone recently who does exactly what Karl was talking about, the wedding shoot thing. And they've got lots and lots of projects on, but their ability to take on new projects is limited often by the amount of time they spend doing DIT. You know, at the wedding, they're having to swap drives out, they're having to back them up and make sure they're doing that, but then they can't shoot, so they kind of leave some of it. It all starts getting very complicated. And by the time they get back, they're tired. They'll have to then transfer everything, go through it, it becomes a real pain in the ass, right? But actually, once they started using camera to cloud, they got all this time back. Just the time they got back, they told me they reckon they got back almost 5 days a month in terms of data handling with the number of shoots they were doing. That meant they were able to take on 5 new clients each month, which meant they grew their revenue. So the cost of doing, first of all, camera to cloud with Frame.io, and secondly, LucidLink to be able to start sharing that. Because guess what? Whilst they're waiting for the guests to turn up, they can be editing stuff outside the church. They can be editing stuff ready and saving them time so they don't have to wait until they get back to base and all the traveling time that involves.
Yeah.
So the costs and the efficiencies it provides are, as a whole thing, are enormous. They're really enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one thing that I would add to this is I've seen a lot of folks that, they may have this trepidation about using Lucid, or they're saying, well, we already have a contract with, a competitor or something like that. But what I've always told folks, if you're looking to collaborate on anything long form, documentary, if you're doing something that's episodic, you want to use Premiere Productions. I've had a number of folks kind of dip their toe into LucidLink by saying, well, we'll get a small amount of storage space on LucidLink and we'll just use it for the Premiere project files. But meanwhile, we will still go through and, schlep a drive with all the media across, so that they're using something like this, that they're shipping it. And very, very quickly, people start to realize the benefit. Usually what happens in those circumstances is people will start with, just having their projects, and then somebody will get a new piece of media, or somebody has a group of sound effects that they've added to a sequence and everybody needs access. And all of a sudden it's kind of like, why don't we put those on Lucid? And then it just escalates from there. So if you want to test it out, the idea of just using it as that one location, that was source of truth for your project, so that you have your Premiere Production folder on a Lucid share so that everybody can see that, and you're managing your media outside of Lucid, that's kind of like your entry into this if you have any questions about it. But I would say probably 70 to 80% of the folks that try that see the value almost immediately and start to trust it with all of the media. And it's just as simple as, a phone call and upgrading, the amount of storage space that you have from there.
One more thought about the wedding thing. My friend that did this, not only is he shooting more and doing more, but guess what? His wife, who's now part of the business, is able to start editing whilst he's still on site shooting, right? She's able to do that. So the whole process suddenly speeds up massively. Anyone else with anything else? Kez, you've been very quiet. Do you have any observations?
Yeah, so I think Karl, you basically answered actually one of our viewers' questions in regards to working with LucidLink in a production. I was also going to ask how team projects work as well, and we do have a question from one of our viewers, Paley. I'm probably butchering his name. I can show it right now. He asked, could we have one edit bay with everything local for the lead editor, for example? And one of his other questions was, which I think Karl answered, was, which is better to use, a production or team project with LucidLink?
Both work fantastic. The difference between the two, team projects is geared more towards short form work. It's something that you're just in that one single team project, but multiple editors can be accessing it. In that circumstance, Adobe takes care of hosting the team project. It's actually stored as part of Creative Cloud, but you still need a solution to share your media. So again, people do clone drives, and you can use, it's one of those crazy situations where you have multiple copies of the media on different drives. You got to make sure it's named the same and everything else, or you simply set up a Lucid share, put everything up there, and Lucid works great with team projects as well. I mostly work in the world of longer form episodic TV, and that's productions are near and dear to my heart. So I tend to talk way more about that than I do team projects. When you get into anything long form team projects, anything over, it depends on complexity more than a hard time limit. But when you get into the typical complexity of a lot of professional edited projects where you've got audio keyframe automation and you've got all these different events on the timeline, it works better for short form stuff. Productions has the robustness that can handle hundreds of thousands of clips within a single project, and can handle timelines of full-length feature films as needed. So Adobe provides those two different methods of collaboration, and you pick the one that's going to work great for you. The good answer is LucidLink works great with both.
Excellent.
We're coming up into the tail end here. I was hoping that maybe, Cass, we could do a lightning round of questions, just so that as many members who have questions could get their thing in. A lightning round in the last few minutes that we're here. Andrew, sorry to interrupt. Would that work for you guys?
Do it.
Got a finger on the buzzer.
All right, so we have actually one of our APP admins, John Knowles, asking a question here.
No admins.
I'm curious as to when the LucidLink 3 version will become the public version. Oh,
this year.
Good question.
I can't say anything more. Yeah.
What's Lucid 3? I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing.
LucidLink 3 is the next generation of the product that is a little bit more web-based. It has a lot of the functionality that we have in the desktop app in terms of administration brought into web. It will have mobile app versions, and it will give us the opportunity to grow the platform a little bit more in that direction of working with web and mobile.
Excellent. Our next question is from Warren.
Oh, great question. I will just say like the very short answer, which is LucidLink works at the speed of your internet connection. We don't throttle it. As much as you give us, we'll take. You can limit it from the application if you don't want it to hog everything in your house and people will get mad at you. But if you have strong internet connection, we will use it.
On the latency side, I mean, obviously LucidLink can't break the laws of physics when it comes to light speed working around the planet. That said, I have worked both with local instances that were spun up of LucidLink here in California. Our main one is actually back east. It's near Virginia in a data center there, and I access it all the time and don't typically have much of an issue. We have folks in Australia. I work with a guy named John Barry who, we work on a lot of internal projects together, and he uses the same Lucid Share that I use that's based on the East Coast of North America. So performance, if you're looking for the absolute fastest performance, having your data center fairly local to your team can make a bit of a difference, but it's, in a lot of cases, the predictive caching and everything that goes on with Lucid kind of helps to eliminate that type of latency issue.
And for the most part, I don't think any of us have experienced any kind of significant lag, and precisely because of that. So listen, there's lots of other questions I know, but here's the thing. We've got all of these guys are appearing. So Gagana, Adam, Karl, of course, and Clayton will be in the group. If you've got any questions, if you'd like to connect with them and ask questions direct, or set up some DMs with them, all of that kind of thing, do it. They'd love to hear from you. Kyle, thoughts, matey?
I guess just in, are there any sort of, I guess we'll wait for the questions. We'll get them into APPE. Please, everybody, come and engage. The brain trust of APPE, the skills and knowledge of the people at APPE are just, it blows me away. And I'm really grateful for everybody here to have an opportunity to actually, for the APPE family, to meet you guys, because a lot of times you think a big software company, when I think of Adobe, yeah, it's big, but I think of Karl, and Jason Levine, and these are real people and real editors,
yeah.
and and this is the same thing with LucidLink. You think, okay, well, it's software, but it's real people who care. Like, Clayton, your resume is like, it blows me away what you've done, and you really care about the enabling editors and clients to be able to work together well. And so I'll throw it to you, Andrew and Kess.
So just to finish off, just a quick one before we round off with Kess. Please do subscribe, like, share. All of that helps. Now, I know this is a first of our regular series of live streams. We're going to be doing these regulars. We know we'll grow the audience. We know that all you guys are going to watch. It's available for you to watch on catch up on YouTube. And, the likes help because they help us understand how many people are watching and who's doing it. And if you've got any other questions, please post them, not only here, but also on the group. And we will start forwarding and moving those around. And I think...
Just a quick thing.
Yeah.
Want to say, we wouldn't be here doing this without the support of LucidLink. So big thanks to you guys. Seriously. We've wanted to be able to engage with members and have members engage with vendors even more closely and get to know everybody. And you're helping us do that. And it really means a lot. I know it means a lot for our members too. So thank you.
And the support from Karl as well, who doesn't, he's come
Karl!
You're a legend. I love you. And of course, Kez, would you like to round us off before we press that button?
Well, it's been a great conversation, learning a lot more about what LucidLink offers to the big enterprise levels as well as the small crews that are out there. So definitely give them a trial. Download their trial, look at their pricing plans, look at what they have to offer you in the grand scheme of things, and see if they could help you maintain that creative flow and that flow state, so you can focus more on the creative and less on the technical.
Guys, I think it's been a wonderful thing. Gagana, have you got any last words?
No, just thank you for setting this up and having us talk more about who we are and what we do and why we love it. The Premiere editors and teams who use Adobe products are our bread and butter because they have the most problems with large files. We know that media files are that, and working remotely. So we are happy that we're able to create a product that helps solve this problem. And we are happy that we have this very close connection with the community, so we can answer questions continuously as a part of it.
Karl, would you like to respond to that?
Just, thank you guys. This forum has been absolutely fantastic for being able to engage. And whether it's myself, people like Matt Christensen, you're dealing with some of the engineers that are directly associated with not only fixing issues, but also developing the next generation of features for the software. So we really value the participation in the group and just the amount of work that folks like Kyle, Kess, Andrew, what you guys do is fantastic to build this community and just keep it sort of on target with engaging with editors and just making the products better.
And Clayton.
Just thank you so much. It's been a great experience. We're really looking forward to engaging with all of you, either individually or as a group. Come out and see us at IBC. We'll be out there in Amsterdam. At Adobe Max, of course. We love Adobe. I loved Adobe Max too. I don't know if I'm going to be on the slate this year, but if I am, I'll see you out there.
And Adam.
It's so nice to make new friends, and I'm just so glad to get to connect with everybody here. I hope we'll get to interact a lot there in the group, and please don't be shy. Let's all come out and hang out.
Karl, it's for you to wrap this up, matey. You've been the inspiration behind so much of this.
Oh, it takes a
group and everything
team.
else.
It
does,
takes a
but-
team. Takes a team. And just thanks again for sponsoring LucidLink. And I got to say, I'm grateful because all I care about, as I progress through the career of what we do, being there for people who need to know, share knowledge, with people. That's the key, right? Because you have all these young, talented, new editors, and then you have us old, who were there at the beginning of nonlinear, and it's amazing how much we can learn from each other. That's really what it comes down to.
It
and
is.
it's So thanks.
And we've reached the end of the stream.
Yeah.
We've run over by 5 minutes. But listen, next time, who's bringing cake? We'll answer that, no doubt, in the comments. I think it's Karl. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time. Engage with these people. Talk in the group.
Be well,
These
everyone.
guys are all going to be there. They'd love to hear from you. Take care.
Take care.
Okay.
God bless.